This is a doozy of a case to cover. We have a VTuber who had a previous alias, then was canceled for their behavior, and they came back on a different alias and still continued their very, very gross behavior towards ton of different individuals. So what kind of kicked this whole thing off again, because again, they got exposed the first time, is this post made by Tanorama, who goes by the handle Tanorama with 3 A's at the end. Tanorama says, please don't pretend you want to be friends with me if you're gonna unadd me or unfollow me everywhere after I tell you I'm a guy. So the name of the person was cropped out, but Anon, and we'll know who this is in a second, says, so before we can talk about gaming plans, can you tell me how old you are, where you're from, and pronouns? Tanorama says 28 he him, you? And then they proceed to get blocked. And Tanorama adds, by the way, if you're confused as to whether it's the gender or the age, it was definitely the gender. I've had multiple people come to me with the same person doing the same thing. He also asked them if they're single right after. VTubing shouldn't be a dating site. Another creator, Kurika Yoko, quote retweets Tanorama's post, writing, please don't use the VTubing space as a dating site. I was finally open to making more friends, but this is just weird. Look at the PNG. It's the same person, okay? And they once again say, let me know how old you are, where you're from, and pronouns. Kurika says, I'm married. He's another streamer. And that is right after you can see Anon says, are you also single? And Kurika confirms it was the same person that messaged Tanorama. People were saying that, oh, maybe it's like weird asking about like the age or whatever, but honestly, like asking for somebody's age is, I feel like, completely fair, because if you are 18 plus, you wouldn't want to interact with somebody who is potentially a minor for obviously safety reasons. So Kurika adds that this person has been harassing femme-presenting VTubers for years, and their name is GoStars VT. So now we have Yukio, or their handle on Twitter is UFO Kyo, and Yukio writes, hi everyone, awareness post because I hate creeps. I've had multiple VTuber mutuals warn me of GoStar VTs for attempting to ask them out, and upon further investigation, they cross boundaries, disrespect artists, and are a scammer. And this is the creator in question. And it's wild that some of you guys in chat have also had experiences with this person. And here, this is a DM from GoStars. What's up? Do you want to add each other on Discord and game together sometimes? That can be innocent in theory until you find out, again, that they're only doing this to femme-presenting individuals. So Yukio adds, they mass message feminine-presenting VTubers. The screenshot is them messaging me. At the time of receiving this message from them, I had only posted my model reveal 3 to 4 hours prior. Before then, I wasn't even outed as a VTuber. So how did they find me? Please read Kurika's original tweet and thread. Unfortunately, this isn't the only instance, and the quick message just proves that they're scouring messaging many. And as you can see from this post, they're a scammer. So they have a post linked. This is the tweet that's linked from Sakura Leah, who made this post April 7th, 2024, where Sakura writes, beware on X Freezy VT. TLDR, 2 years ago, X was looking for a VTuber model for around $100 with a short deadline. I thought it would be a simple bust, and I really needed money. He wanted to pay by friends and family from the very beginning and kept telling me to not scam him. He also harassed Azuyani by spamming weird messages. Then, Somi Studio was chosen as X's next artist. The commission was taken somewhere September after I decided to quit and no longer be X's artist. Somi was struggling with X for 2 months and didn't receive any payment after all the hard work she made. He faked the invoice and till now never paid for the model and still uses it to this day without permission. So here you can see X Freezy has blocked Sakura, and this was the model in question. And here you can see X is DMing Somi, and then X sends over an invoice. So this is the Google Doc that Sakura had linked, and Sakura adds that this happened back in 2022. And they apologize for their English grammar because it's not their native language, and there are 2 victims, Azu and Somi Studio. August 8th, 2022, X was looking for a VTuber model for $100 for a short deadline. So here is Sakura Leah, they're DMing on Discord, and then X says, no worries, but are you gonna be legit or are you gonna scam me? And how old are you? So Leah reveals their age, and X says, well, I mean, if you're not a kid, that works for me. And here Freezy says, and I'm guessing you're a girl, right? And Leah confirms. And then X is like, oh, I don't know if you know Redacted, but I'm friends with her and I like the inspiration for her to make the Omen VTuber model for free. And this is likely referring to Azu. So Azuyani is a creator who makes free VTuber models. They made a lot of free Valorant VTuber models. And I think this was around in like 2021, 2022. Their Valorant VTuber models are super cute, by the way, like 10 out of 10. So here Freezy says Azu's prices are too expensive, like $500. Which $500 for a VTuber model, by the way, is cheap. But, everybody has different budgets. And Leah adds, he mentioned that he's friends with Azu and wanted a similar art to her style. But after I spoke with Azu, it turns out he was creeping her out, harassing her by sending weird messages all the time. So this is Azu's side, where Azu didn't even know X when she made that VTuber model. Wow. So here we have screenshots of DMs from X to Azu, where X is having like a solid one-sided conversation with themselves, starting from July 21st till September 26th. I'm just laughing because this is absurd. Like, look at this. It's just like messages after messages after messages, like a solo conversation in here. This is Azu talking about their experience, stating, I didn't have much of an experience with them, which is referring to X. They first DM'd me for help on how to set up their webcam, then started talking about commissioning me, but said my prices were too expensive. Then asked me to play Valorant, which I said I was too busy each time. Then they would ask for help on issues that I had no knowledge of, and I stopped responding because I was uncomfortable and they kept spamming me with random topics. I think this person may have had issues with understanding boundaries I was trying to put and has no knowledge on the client-creator relationship. I didn't experience anything malicious, I just didn't have the energy for that. So X had linked Azu's Twitter, then said, if you can, deadline will be ASAP. But since I know you're a college student, I understand you're busy and art takes long, so we can discuss. Leah expresses that that's a bit confusing because on one hand, X said they wanted it ASAP, but on the other hand, he says there's no urgency. And here X says, if you need more time, it's not urgent, but do your best to hand it in early and don't stress about it if you can't make the deadline, which talk about mixed signals going on here. So Freezy wants Leah to match the style and detail of the artist sent. In the doc, Leah adds, yeah, he wants Leah to make art similar to Azu's style. So Leah adds, I kept asking him for details and such, and I posted examples of one random mood board where all details are provided. But he had issues with that and talking crap that he doesn't know how to draw. Where I think it's interesting, Leah's just asking for descriptions and Freezy keeps saying that he can't draw humans. Leah's the artist. You just need to tell Leah what you want. So Freezy sends some artwork and then says that his artwork is a monstrosity. And then he starts making silly jokes. So here Leah says, you want her? Like referring to the example artwork Freezy sent that was art Freezy made. And then Freezy was like, and in response to, do you want her? X says, like IRL? And Leah corrects, no, like a VTuber model. So then they talk about payments and Freezy wants friends and family, so there's no transfer fee. And Leah says, nope, it's illegal. I prefer you send an invoice on PayPal. And then Freezy is like pushing back on the fact that it's illegal to pay through friends and family for a good and service, and Leah standing firm. Leah adds that they then had a voice call for a few hours where Freezy was giving a brief idea of what he wants, but then started to complicate it over and over, and then it became something completely different. But this looks to be the character in the beginning that he wants, kind of like some sort of blonde-haired candle character in like a gothic maid dress. So attached to this document is the character reference sheet for X, where apparently X sent 200 photos that he spammed in the Discord to Leah. And in this doc, we can just see, look, like, okay, for artists, it helps to give a lot of examples because then the artist can have a lot of direction. Like, oh, I know specifically now, you want this, you want that. This is like 200 different images, very different, of like creatures too, which Freezy was like commissioning for a humanoid VTuber from what it sounds like. And we have like alien creatures, creatures with purple flames, sea creatures, dragons, fur creatures, and then now we have outfit examples. This is just a lot. So then Leah makes Freezy a simple chart to try to figure out what he wants. And then here he's giving unnecessary info. Freezy says, I might stop browsing because I have to pee, LMFAO. Is that really necessary to tell your artist? You guys aren't friends, right? This is a client-artist relationship. And then Leah adds, sending more references is helpful towards artists, but this is sounding like Freezy has no idea what he wants. When you send all of those examples, there's no way all of that can be combined into one character for you. Here, Freezy's just being fucking weird, man. They're talking about prices, then all of a sudden Freezy's like, how has my bladder not burst? What the F? Can you just not be weird in this communication between you and your artist? You guys aren't friends. Leah is just your artist for the model. Why are you talking about how badly you have to pee, how your bladder's gonna burst, da 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 da? That's like stuff that you tell like your close friends as a joke, you know, not an artist you're commissioning off of Twitter or wherever else they met, right? Here, again, they're talking and then Freezy's like, also, I'm gonna have to take a pee break, LOL. Again, why are you talking about having to go #1 so often? And right before that, Leah says, sorry, but we're gonna have to cancel this commission. It's way too much for me. I hope you'll find somebody who will suit your requirements. Freezy's confused and Leah's like, I have no idea what you want. Leah expresses why they don't want to work with Freezy because it's for a VTuber and a pet, but Leah thought that Freezy just wanted a simple design that would fit in the $100 budget. But clearly Freezy has no idea what they want and they're asking for a lot. So it's way too detailed for the $100 budget. And Leah's again trying to get Freezy to do the character chart thing to narrow down what they want. Because Freezy sent 200 photos and Leah expresses that many have no connection whatsoever to each other. And Leah adds, we agreed for the art style from that girl on Twitter, Azu. And then Freezy's being really weird. Freezy's like, oh, see if you can find the art style you can do within my budget. I can adapt. This is why I wanted to brainstorm, to see your strengths and weaknesses. That's just a weird statement. It's odd. And then he kept spamming extra stuff, and Leah's like, so you want some weird creature like this, referencing a link that Freezy sent, plus a VTuber model girl who I have no idea how she looks like because you didn't do the chart. So then he starts sending like Booth models he found. So Booth is a website where you can like pay to use VTuber models. You can also find free ones on there. And then now he's like spamming Leah in Discord about this Booth model, which is like, again, completely irrelevant to what you guys were supposed to be talking about. Like, Leah keeps trying to like get Freezy back on track. Like, hey, let's talk about the VTuber model you were commissioning me. Can you narrow down what you want, or let's just not work together? And Freezy's just yapping about some random stuff, like just never getting back on track. So here's a design. This is Sakura Leah's design. And Leah as this is the second design he picked, but started changing stuff. And of course, there's a pet design. So they kind of go back and forth where Freezy's like, oh, this is my favorite, but the only thing I would change is maybe the skin tone. Leah adds, I think I deleted the sketches because he tried to steal them. Later on, I'll explain it. And then Freezy sends an art piece Leah made, and that was the one we just saw and was like, this is the one I like the best. So then Freezy sends that and was like, oh, there's some adjustments we can make, like mixing different colors or cloth styles from other female VTuber examples. And then Leah's like, I don't know what else you want to change with this design. And Freezy's like, we can discuss it after I wake up. Sorry, I'm just cracking up because Freezy sends over a pet that he wants. And then Leah's like, what the F is this? And Freezy's like, it looks like a baby shark or orca, or you could change it to make it into a shrimp. And then here, Freezy's just talking to himself, and Leah is so confused. This is just like a stream of consciousness in DMs that Leah does not need to hear. Freezy's like, oh, maybe keep it as an orca or like a shark, but somehow change it to avoid plagiarism. Oh, I know, change the star stuff to maybe make it a jellyfish. So like jellyfish surrounding the baby orca, kind of like a shield or defense mechanism, you know, like an electric field. Like replace the stars in a jellyfish. Or if it doesn't work, we can make it bubbles as well, like big round bubbles surrounding it. Hold on, I'll show you what I mean. Then Leah sends a sketch, like kind of confused. And he's like, yeah, but like bubbles for the baby orca. So first Leah sends over the artwork where it looks like a cute little orca with a diamond on its head. And then it kind of changed into orca with bubbles and the head looks more like monstrous. And then Leah adds, the conversation gets weird, where Freezy's talking about sleeping pills. He's like, do you have sleeping pills? Leah's like, no. And Freezy's like, maybe get some. It knocks you out and helps you sleep. So here, Freezy then is like, oh, if you're awake, is it okay if I post a rough sketch on my Instagram? It'll be a sneak peek. Leah's like, after your first payment, you'll then be able to post and use the sketch. And Freezy had already posted it and was like, oh, let me remove it from my story. I'll delete it now. Leah's upset. And then Freezy's like, what? It's pretty, man. And Leah's like, so you did it first and then asked? That's mean. And then Freezy's like, my bad. I thought you were asleep and I just couldn't wait to show the model's beauty. And Leah is firm. Please don't share or use my stuff unless you paid for them. Thank you. Sorry. This Freezy guy is just insufferable. Oh, wow. This is awful. Sorry. Here in the DMs, he started asking for a ton of changes on the VTuber. And I know it looks really funky because it's like the colors blurring out, but he's asking for like changes to the hair color. Leah made it orange, then blonde, then like blonde with like orange tips. And then Freezy isn't like super happy about that. And then here Freezy gets weird. Bruh, you said you're gonna raid me. And like Leah changed the hair color probably 10,000 times. No joke. Like there's pink, slightly peachy pink, then orange, then we have a more burnt orange, then we have a pink, then we have like an orangey pink, then like a warmer pink, then a lighter pink, then a pink with a little bit more purple in it, then a icy blue. And then talking about VTubers, so Freezy's like, oh, we need to make it look less aquatic because there's already a lot of aquatic VTubers, right? So then Freezy's asking for hair changes and Leah again says, I won't render the hair or anything before payment. And Freezy says, okay, as long as you don't scam me, I won't scam you either because I'm not that kind of person, so don't worry. The audacity for Freezy to say, trust me, bro, I won't scam you after asking for like a bajillion changes to the model without paying and then posting the sketch and then asking for permission afterwards. And Leah in the doc adds, he wanted me to render the character without payment and for a second time said he won't scam me. Freezy is just like, I don't know, kind of crashing out in the DMs. I'll pay as long as you don't scam me. And heck, it's like a bonus for me if you raid me because I barely get raids. I think I've had like 3 raids so far and sometimes the raids are even fake. If you want to know how trustworthy I am, I still haven't told my best friend's secret to anyone. But also because of my ADHD, I also like forget it too, LOL. But when I do remember, I keep my mouth shut usually. Again, take it as you will because I'm kind of a stranger to you. But I'm telling you personally, I'm a man of my word, especially with transactions. And if the person who I'm working with is kind, considerate, and patient with my dumb A, and you've been hella patient, not gonna lie. So I respect that. Anyways, I'm gonna shower. Need to get off the toilet or I'm not gonna be able to feel my legs. All right, ciao. I think this person needs to learn boundaries. And again, we have another mention of being on the toilet. Why are you always talking about needing to use the bathroom? Leah does not need to know this. So Leah then gives him a quote for $400 because of all the stuff that Freezy wants. And then Freezy is like, well, we'll see, but $400 is quite expensive. Maybe in the future when I have enough money and after thinking about it, I'll ask you if I need adjustments or another pet commission. So here Freezy is getting weird. Leah says that they're gonna be busy and Freezy's like, oh, IRL hangout or what? And Leah's like, oh, I have to do some shopping and da-da-da. And Freezy's like, clothes shopping? Or I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but some of the questions that Freezy asks is just, in my opinion, quite invasive for somebody that they don't know. So Leah sends over their TOS, and Freezy's like questioning the TOS. And then Leah adds, it was going nowhere since August, so in October I wrote that I don't want to work with them. Besides all his crappy conversations, he was sending me random emotes, random private messages, and begged for follows and raids. If needed, I could provide those things too. So now we're on to Somi Studios' experience. So Somi was X's next artist. The commission was taken somewhere in September when Leah quits, and Somi was struggling with X for 2 months and didn't receive any payment after all the hard work she made. So here are some sketches she sent to X. So here are a whole bunch of different sketches, and Somi notes, note, he didn't choose one. Another sketch, Leah adds, but looking by them, I could clearly see X was trying to scam Somi. Here, this is Somi in conversation with somebody named Angela, and Angela says, pay her goddamn down payment, Freezy. And Leah adds, Angela was suspicious suddenly later on that X didn't pay anything. Where Somi's like, you said you paid as well, which I don't remember. I didn't even send an invoice yet. So it's both Somi and Angela talking to Freezy. And Freezy's like, wait, let me check. What's your PayPal? And then Freezy's asking for the PayPal, and Somi says they're gonna send an invoice. So Freezy says, I'll send $300 right now, then once I fix my sensor. Freezy is like playing some weaponized incompetence right now here in Discord with Somi, being like, oh, do I need to transfer the money from my bank into PayPal in order to pay you, or does it not matter? Because I remember like, why can't you just figure it out yourself? I don't know, right? Then Freezy shows a screenshot of the invoice Somi sent, and Somi says, please remove the stuff in revisions channel if it isn't related to the things you want me to do. And here's proof the invoice isn't paid. And you can see the invoice is pending. And Freezy's like, wait, the pending is on your side or mine? It might have to wait until Tuesday for the payment to go through since I've already exceeded my bank's limit until after Tuesday. And Somi says, then we can continue the discussion by then. And Freezy says the issue is their bank and that their dad has to confirm the payment, which like, what? So by the way, the screenshots are a little bit out of order. Freezy's like, oh, you don't need to reply right now, but whenever you get the chance, can you send the sketches without the ghost hood? By the way, the payment didn't go through yet. And that Somi had said, ping me when you sent the money so I can work on it. And Freezy had the audacity to ping Somi when the money wasn't even sent yet. So here in the doc, Azu found out that X is scamming by sending unpaid invoices. So there is this like unpaid invoice for $100, where again, it says invoice received pending. OP writes, see how the first one said you paid, which means you actually paid. And the second one said redacted sent an invoice, meaning it wasn't paid. But basically he sent a screenshot of an unpaid invoice trying to claim it was actually paid off. And here, Somi in Discord cancels the commission with Freezy, where Somi says, I would have usually charged for the amount of colored sketches I sent, but all I ask is credit and referral to my services and Twitter. And please be mindful about being clear with what you want. And next time, be professional. This is wild. They're talking about designs, and Somi is like, once purchased, only that person will have the design. It'll be completely theirs. And Freezy's like, right, and I have one as well. One that they never paid for, that Somi was working on for free. And Freezy's like, let's say I somehow blow up. And Somi's like, X, please take note that I've spent so many hours on these designs and you haven't even compensated me. Is that fair to you? And this is so gross. Freezy's like, I understand about not being compensated, but as of right now, as much as I want to compensate you, I can't do so because of my current financial status. However, if minimum payment is under $100 for compensation, and once my financial has changed, I'll make sure to keep in contact with you. And once I have the money, I'll pay you $100. Or if I can't find an artist by next year, I'll commission you again. Though to be frank, you did insist you'll get the commission done no matter what, so that's on you. What in the audacity do you have to try to gaslight the artist, Somi, to be like, well, I do want to compensate you, but like, because I'm broke, I can't. If you were broke, then don't commission for art. And that also means you're a liar, aren't you? Freezy kept saying, oh, I'll pay you. Oh, the money is sending. It's just held up in PayPal. My dad didn't approve it. So did you send the $300 or did you lie because you don't even have $100? Again, I'm not saying that to like shame you if you have less than $100, right? In this economy, finances are tough. This was though in 2022. But don't go commissioning artists when they tell you it's going to be $300 and you know you don't have that $300. You waste their time, you waste their efforts, and no way they're gaslighting the artist. To be frank, you insisted you'll get the commission done no matter what. Yeah, within reason, duh, they'll get the commission done if you paid them, but you didn't. And Freezy continues, Jesus. If you know you have a lot of commissions, I suggest from now on, don't tell your customers that you can finish their commission unless you're 100% sure you can, please. Anyways, please send the zip folder of the sketches so I can send them to another artist to commission. I also took a lot of time adding edits to the sketch for the final design and did my best to avoid going off tangent on my final design. Now, it doesn't mean I have bad blood with you, but just a friendly reminder for future commissions. This Freezy person is insufferable. Where did you come up with the audacity to say this to people? Somebody you didn't pay, by the way. Demanding a zip folder of the sketches that you did not pay for? So here, Leah is talking to Somi, and Leah says, did you allow them to use the Live 2D sketch and have it drawn 1-to-1? And Somi's like, what? I only allowed them to use my sketch as references. And Leah shows an example where they were asking for that sketch to be made into a VTuber model. And Somi's like, not the whole thing. That's mine. So this is a screenshot of Freezy's stream where Freezy has the sketch pulled up and it looks like Freezy is drawing on the sketch that Somi made. And the other artist says, then what will he do with the model if it's not his character? But he wants me to draw it as a Live 2D. I've already drawn a sketch for him in the style, and it's useless to delete it because he has it saved. A couple other people in the comments are sharing their experiences with Freezy. So Cthulhu Lil says, dang, I had a feeling something was off. They reached out to me last October for work, then immediately wanted to get personal and asked me if I wanted to get to know them in the future. It was very off-putting. Cuny says, in February, they DM me, what's up? I was wondering, do you want to add each other on Discord and be VTuber friends sometimes? I thought it was really weird because neither of us were following each other and we've never interacted in the past at all. Seems like I dodged a bullet. Here we have Sakura Jenny VT. Freezy is again sending that same copy pasta message. Want to add each other on Discord and game together? And Jenny says, sorry, I don't add people who I'm not familiar with. It's written in my rules. And then Freezy is so weird about it. You wrote, quote, don't send Jenny friend requests. She will add you if she wants, end quote, which is a generic response. And it didn't include anything about it. If you're familiar with somebody, then you'll add them on Discord. So that's what I had to ask first. If that's the case, would you be down to game sometime instead? And from there, we can get to know each other since your DMs are also closed as well. Talk about being weird and pushy. This is literally the like nice guy behavior, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm a nice guy, like da 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 da. No, this is like encroaching onto predatory behavior in my opinion, right? It's like the slippery slope. As a woman, like when people say things like this, it's a massive red flag. More other people in the comments. Cheery says, effing finally, I don't have to speak up about this alone. I kept quiet for so long. As an artist who has also committed for their VTuber model in the past, I can attest to these allegations. Memla says, I'm sorry this happened to you. I had the same experience as some others, with the person spamming and begging me to friend them and follow them, play games, etc. It just felt off from the start. It continues, in the credits of his Twitch, according to Leah, VTuber model designed fan art. He listed the sketch that Somi made as fan art. More commenters, this VTuber kept spamming me to follow him back and do free art. I'm scared because he's commissioning me with a logo right now, but he already paid. Scared he might refund after the delivery. It continues, Milky Knox. They were very annoying and kept asking me over and over for favors, contacts, and to join them in stream and their server without showing any interest in me. I decided to distance myself from this person since they were very clearly clout chasing or wanting free work. We can see Freezy sends an emote, Milky expresses they like the emote, and Freezy's like, you can use it if you join my server. Do you want to join my server? And Milky says, sorry, not right now. Freezy's like, oh, no worries. Do you want to join later? And then here, Freezy's just spamming Milky in Discord. And yeah, you can see in the comments, it just continues with a ton of people with awful experiences, very, very similar experiences with this person. And then Leah has an update. Freezy got banned from the Live 2D server, probably because of their behavior. Then back to Yukio's thread. They continue, I knew this person was a creep before they messaged me, but many will not know. Please warn others. This is an unacceptable way to conduct yourself. The VTuber community is not a dating site. Please be wary of them. The behavior is recent and ongoing. And additional note, I couldn't find their gender listed anywhere and their model is femme presenting. The way I'm seeing it, they're using this as a way to lower the guard of female and femme-presenting VTubers. I say that because it lowered mine for a second. Upon checking their voice on Twitch, it sounds masculine. Everyone in the thread seemed to be using he/him pronouns for them. They could have listed them during their past identity and decided to remove it at some point. Yukio adds to not attack or harass this person, and that this post was made to spread awareness. And then they link another post. So this is a thread made by Twitter user Maru-chan Draws. And Maru says, hi everyone, I am the artist who designed their current model. I've debated for a long time whether or not to speak about this, but I need to address my experience with Ghostaris, both to protect others and to make sure this doesn't happen again to myself or others. By the way, Ghostaris and Freezy are the same person, which like, I don't think you guys need proof, but here we have Ghostaris dropping their Twitch and another commenter, hi X-Freezy, your design looks so icy and cool. Here, Ghostaris literally refers to themselves as X-Freezy. Oh, could you try adding me? Mine is X-Freezy. like same person. Maru continues, Ghostaris reached out to me wanting to commission for a VTuber model but didn't have a design. I offered a free 30-minute mock-up, which I typically do with other VTuber children. However, this turned into getting taken advantage of for weeks. So here, Ghostaris is expressing being confused, and Maru is offering a quick free design. Maru adds that they rarely draw on call because they have anxiety, but they thought it couldn't hurt. And they did that one call and it turned into 5. They did their best to set boundaries, but Ghostaris would continuously interrupt or twist their words and create a hostile environment for Maru. They would continuously pry and text if Maru didn't respond. Regardless of boundaries that Maru would set, they would constantly spam, and Maru gave up. And Maru attached some examples, and that Maru emphasized they had paid commissions. So here Maru is saying, I have a tight deadline, and Ghostaris says, no worries, give me a heads up. I'm on my way back home. Still down to meet after I shower. I want to double check, are we meeting tonight? I'm home right now. At Maru. And then Maru says, oh, I'll be working on it tonight. Ghostaris says, no worries, when do you think you'll be done with the line art? Maru says, super soon. And Ghostaris says, bet, can't wait to see what you cooked up. If you send it sometime later today, I'll try to look at it on my break or lunch. I'm on lunch right now if you want to send it to me right now. I'm guessing maybe in a few days then instead of super soon, Maru. And that was sent a day later. And Maru was like, sorry about the unclear communication. Please understand I have lots of other art to work on. So some more spams. Ghostaris is spamming again. Please feel free to message me whenever within the time frame of October 16th and November 2nd, since I don't work during this time frame and will be free to answer text. What's up, Maru? Are you able to send any new updates yet? How soon, though? I plan on commissioning another artist for your character here that will be based on the design. And Maru is saying that they're trying to finish it tonight, but that they don't know because, again, this is free. Maru adds that in that screenshot, they were really sick, but that Ghostaris kept pressing for updates, and that Halloween is a big holiday for them, but that Ghostaris was still pressing for updates on Halloween. Maru adds, I communicated that I'll be creating 1 free design, but they managed to spin my words and convince me to do 2, even though I initially offered 1. A sketch turned into them asking for line art, and eventually a rendered design, which aligns with other stories. Designs I made. Oh, it's so pretty! The final straw for me was the nearly 12 iterations of the second outfit design they wanted. They continuously asked for colors and design elements to be changed even if they approved it beforehand. They would send vague color references and told me to change it to something else entirely, then added new color requests like green, yellow, and red, none of which were in the references. They even sent the note ghost colors with 0 context. They then took it upon themselves to color over my design and do what they thought looked best. So here we can see a design was sent, and then they sent color references after they said they didn't like the colors, and then the colors were changed, and then more references after they didn't approve the edits, which notes a lot of these references look like AI. Then they painted over the design to some other colors that doesn't, by the way, look like the references they sent. Basically, they're sending references of like Japanese-esque architecture in icy, snowy weather with a lot of blues with pops of bright orange, like neon orange. And then they sent a colored over version that's like yellow to teal, are not colors present in the references. They were drawing over Maru's design again, and Maru at this point said fine because they weren't approving anything. And then Maru kept making super tiny minor changes to try to make him happy. There's like slight jellyfish color changes, like instead of making it like a light teal to like a darker blue, or like making the inside teal, or making the like top of it green. And then again, like a bajillion other changes, super tiny changes. And then they finally approved. Maru adds, here's me setting my boundaries. The first time was ignored. The second time we stopped working together officially. And here Ghostaris is again asking when they could meet. Maru is expressing their discomfort because they put a lot of time and effort all for free, and that Ghostaris is still waffling around on what they want. And Maru adds, I freelance full-time and I've paused important paid commissions to help you get your dream design. At this moment, I need to cancel any further comms. I hope you can understand. Here, Ghostaris says, I'm willing to pay though. Don't believe this for a second, because what do you mean you're willing to pay? If you're willing to pay, why haven't you paid yet? If you truly were willing to pay, you should be on your hands and knees begging for Maru's PayPal. You should dig it up yourself. It's probably easy to find, right? Most artists have like a coffee available somewhere, right? Find the PayPal, pay him. And then here, Ghostaris is like, can we talk about the rush fee as well, as will you be able to finish the model? And then Maru says again, I'm sorry for the short notice, but I'm not able to finish your model. And then Ghostaris is like, can you let me know what the reason is? Maru adds, yes. They offered to pay whenever I brought up the fact I was doing hundreds of dollars of work for free. But when I sent my PayPal, they never sent a payment. And Maru says no need to pay since I did it for free, but if you want to, feel free to choose the amount. Maru sent the PayPal. And Ghostara says, wait, even for both reference sheets? And then Maru says, yes, I've sent multiple messages about it. And Ghostara says like, wait, are you fine with me waiting to finish my 2.0 cost first, then I can pay you? I want to make sure I have enough. Maru adds, before I finally canceled everything, they asked if they could pay for a $1,000 plus model and a $500 ref sheet in less than $50 increments weekly. As an artist who makes a living off this, I was not comfortable with this, which is why I canceled. Maru continues, now they barely credit my design when using it, and during calls and streams, they use language that makes it sound like they came up with the design, even though they couldn't send me any solid references. I was essentially piecing together chaos. I don't want to believe they had negative motives when we were working together. Overall, I feel taken advantage of and had my boundaries crossed. I cried because of how overwhelming it was. Persistently being DM'd, bombarded on call, asking for constant changes, it made me lose a spark for commissions and has interfered on how I've been working. I lost hundreds of dollars, and even more valuable for me, I no longer enjoy doing what I love as much as I used to. However, please don't send hates. And finally, thank you to all my commissioners for patience. And another commenter says, oh, it's mostly their fault, but just please be aware of constantly using soon when sending updates. Maru says, I struggle with vague timeframes and it's on me. But it was hard to put a timeline because I was prioritizing other work, which is fair. Maru was prioritizing paid work. And then we have a user on Twitter by the name of Taz or Taz the Menace who quote retweeted Maru's post, writing, I'm so glad I'm not the only one. A few months ago, this person commissioned me for 2 Minecraft skins with a 24-hour rush fee. I ended up staying awake till nearly 6 a.m. because they spent several hours asking for things that weren't physically possible in a Minecraft skin. A Minecraft skin is 64 by 64 pixels normally. It's a small canvas and hard to pack in details. They wanted a jellyfish tattoo on a 3x2 section of the leg, ice texture of the hair, and they wanted the tail to pop out, and they gave an example as a ref. Even when I told them this was a mod that gives the outer layer extra depth, they still wanted the tail on the outer layer. And I sent them a screenshot, they said it wasn't popping out enough. So that was the communication between Ghostaris and Taz. And then Ghostaris says, oh, I'm having trouble seeing the pop-out feature. And Taz says, it's not always visible, the screenshot you sent, they were using mods and shaders. Taz adds, they also asked for things that could be done, but it would make the skin look messy because there were a lot of details. But regardless, I showed them just in case. And they ended up going back to how it was twice. But eventually, after 2 hours, everything was approved and the commission was submitted. And after I told them I needed to sleep, they started asking for a collab. So Taz is again expressing that it's getting late, and then Ghostaris accepts the commission and that Taz says they'll send it tomorrow. And then here, Ghostaris says, I was wondering if you want to game together sometimes with our models as well, since I love your design. Taz says that they're busy. Ghostar says, oh, when are you usually free or the next time you're free? And Taz says, to be honest, I normally don't play games with people I don't know well. Ghostaris, not accepting no for a frickin' answer, says, would you like to get to know each other first then? Take no for an answer, bro. If I'm getting fed up, it's because people like this just, give me the ick, man. Taz continues, I wasn't comfortable with any of this. And the same day they commissioned me, they excitedly tweeted about how somebody from V Shoujo followed them and DM'd them for a collab. The X followed you screenshot in the tweet was a small indie VTuber. And Taz states that they just felt like Ghost was trying to find people to collab with and Taz wasn't interested. And Taz went to bed and woke up to use the restroom around the same time. Ghost started to DM them with simple questions that kept turning into trying to be friends. Taz kept saying they weren't interested. So here, Ghost is spamming. By the way, would you like to get to know each other first by calling sometime or talking in my VTuber Discord server's voice chat? Taz says, sorry, I'm too shy. Ghost says, no worries, what about a direct call? And Taz says, sorry, I meant I'm too shy when it comes to meeting new people. VA voice chat? If so, I'm down to get to know each other through text. Taz says, no, I mean in general. And Ghost says, all right, no worries. If you want to get to know each other, feel free to hit me up. Read the room. Take no for an answer. And part of me, I'm always confused when I see people like this because on one hand, it's either you are genuinely dense and you cannot read the room and you cannot tell that all of these people don't want to be friends with you. Or two, they don't want to be friends with you. And you knowingly still push the boundaries of what that other person is clearly comfortable with. Taz adds, days later, they DM me on Discord if we could follow each other on Twitter so we could still DM if they needed edits on the skin, which seemed redundant because we originally DM'd on Twitter to begin with, then moved to Discord for the edits. I told them I didn't think it was necessary to do that to stay in contact since we have already DM'd on Twitter. I also got bad vibes from them directly asking me to follow them. We went separate ways and never heard from them since. I always assumed I was crazy or maybe the two of us had incompatible vibes, but seeing other people's experiences, things make a lot more sense and I'm glad I wasn't crazy. They're being gross and creepy towards them presenting VTubers. Like, they won't take no for an answer. And then we have an art studio by the name of Jang Atelier who posts about XFreezy being a blacklisted user, and this was a year ago, April 7th, for not paying artists for work, asking for 100% refund guarantee even when work is done, pressuring for discounts, making artists uncomfortable with multiple revisions for free, asking uncomfortable and personal questions with artists when a business relationship has not been established, stealing artwork. And so we have another creator by the name of Sandrina who hosted a raffle for this design. Super, super, super cute. And that design includes commercial rights. So Ghost Stars won, and Sandrina is like stressed about it. So don't bother them about the situation. They're 9 months pregnant. I wish them a successful pregnancy and delivery. They expressed they're stressed out about it because their last contact with XFreezy or Ghost was about the raffle. And then Ghost immediately wanted to raffle the art off again with VastGG or something like that, setting the price at 100 euros. Sandrina expressed that they were uncomfortable with setting a price because it was free, and Ghost said they respected it and that was it. And Sandrina says, I don't want to be associated with this kind of people, but I can't take back the design because they want it. What's the right thing to do? I just want to do art in peace. Sorry for what everyone had to go through. I wish somebody else had won. And Yukio adds, another commenter, Rikachi, says, you could perhaps still let them win, but forbid any VTuber content related activities to avoid the rebrand. Of course, it's just a suggestion. And Yukio says, don't stress about it, Sandrina. I'll look through their posts and try to figure out what happened to the design. If I find out it was passed to somebody else, I'll contact you about who it was. We can also call out or prevent it if Ghost tries to use it. And this is because there's a fear that Ghost would then take that design and then rebrand into that new design. And that Yukio adds, there was no raffle for the design, which means Ghost still has it. So then we have Etasha Coffee Co., who put out a document about Ghost Stars, where Ghost Stars was a new affiliate and then they ended up terminated from Etasha Coffee Co. And Etasha adds that they wanted to handle it privately. However, in retaliation, Ghost Stars chose to review bomb their website and try to blackmail staff by threatening to keep the false reviews live unless they reinstated Ghost as an affiliate. As a result, they hid the fake reviews, but it lost Etasha Coffee Co. their gold authenticity status with Judge Me. Blackmailing the company is wild. Ghost Stars then said that they were going to go on a hiatus, and they actually just weren't on a hiatus and they kept messaging people anyways. And before their hiatus, they had a big crash out on Twitter that they've then deleted. There's another person who had posted about their experience on stream, also with Ghost Stars. It's Mika Vampire VT. Mika writes, I've collabed with him on stream, and I'm sorry to my viewers if you felt uncomfortable when I was streaming with him. Mika states that they sent a post in a VTuber collab group on Twitter, and that Ghost was one of the people that responded. When they first started talking, he wanted to chat for a vibe check. And Mika states they normally check past streams to kind of get a vibe, and they don't like to VC. Ghost really wanted to VC, so Mika gave in, and Ghost asked personal questions that seemed too personal for a first-time encounter. Like, how old am I? Am I in a relationship? Where do I live? I don't tell people any of this info because it's none of their business. Plus, that is the first time they've ever talked together. And Mika adds, they told me all of their info, but Mika didn't want to give their info up, which is totally fair. That he was really persistent on playing games in VC and off stream, and Mika told him countless times no. When they did collab together, Mika felt uncomfortable, especially at the end, because it felt like Ghost didn't want Mika to leave. He never muted his voice when directly talking to chat or saying thank you to things in chat. Mika adds during their holiday to Australia, Ghost was still messaging, and Ghost was still asking to VC to get to know each other better and bumping messages. Mika adds, there was one time in our DMs where he was like, wanna know what liar is backwards? I responded rail, and he responds with me, get it, lol. I ignored it because it's weird and ew. There were a lot of weird DMs with him. That's so icky, man. And then in Yukio's thread, they added updates that Ghost still plans to raffle Sandrina's design. And again, that was the design they won from Sandrina. Bro is chronically online. Chronically. Also, we have this post that's retweeted by Sakura Leah, posted by Lunaries or Lunaries Chew on Twitter. Lunaries writes, I had a horrible experience with him. Yes, him. I did not know they were not feminine or female presenting until after a call. They are not LGBTQ. They admitted they use a female model because male models don't get enough attention. Which I get, but warn somebody first? Also, they immediately were like, quote, I was part of drama and I was not in the wrong. They said I didn't pay the artist, but I did, end quote, etc. And that was the first red flag, as I didn't even bring it up. Also, they spent 1 hour forcing me to guess why they chose their VTuber and what it represents. And it was a very uncomfortable time, and you cannot change the subject. No, I did not ask, by the way. They reached out to me via Twitter too. They were very pushy, absolutely rude AF during games, constantly screaming and yelling, while me and my other friend were trying to have a conversation in general, and we both ended up leaving and blocking due to that. Very much a creep in voice too. I have ADHD and I don't scream over people trying to talk every 2 minutes. So here are them talking and kind of like agreeing to when to call. And Ghost is being super pushy. Like Lunaris is working. Ghost is like, when are you off work? And Lunaris is like, in a few hours. And Ghost is like demanding, like, how many hours? I'm heading to Safeway to get like a COVID and flu vaccine, which again, nobody asked. And they agreed to call 8 p.m. PST. So what is the need to be pushy? They're talking and finally agreed on the time. And here the call finally finished and Lunaria says, hey, the vibes are kind of off towards the end for me personally. To put it nicely, you wouldn't let me and Celestia hold a convo because you kept interrupting us and repeating the same thing a ton of times, even when we tried to talk. It was a lot for us to handle. And Ghost says, I can reduce that since, like I said, I have ADHD. As somebody who also has ADHD, sometimes your brain is kind of like ramming at you like, oh, say this, say this. You do have to learn, hey, we just can't steamroll everybody in conversations, okay? You can definitely make the conscious choice to keep your mouth shut. And Lunaris adds, oh, not to mention when he heard I work in IT, he was essentially demanding I fix his PC issues. It was low-key guilting me by saying stuff like, quote, you should help a fellow VTuber out, end quote. It was crazy, and I was like, lol, not trying to work for free, my dude. I don't know you. Yukio apologizes for Lunaris having to deal with them, and they say, does the meaning or symbolism of why he chose his model because we should ghost him coldly? That's the only thing I could guess. But at the end of the day, don't send hate to any parties involved, including Ghost, right? These people thrive off of attention, so the most we can do is just bring awareness to the behavior of this individual so that if you're an artist and they're in your DMs, don't commission them. But please send love to all the affected parties: Tanaramas, Kurika, Yukio, Sakura Leah, Somi, Azu, Maru, Taz the Menace, Lunaries, Mika, and every other person that has been affected by this individual ghost, because their behavior is absolutely not okay. And to wrap it up, if you like the video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on VGen. I have art there. I also have a Coffee with free resources like a sponsorship guide if you would like to check that out on Coffee. I also stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch you guys in my streams or in another one of my videos. Peace.